Family First is bringing you conservative conversations, commentary and content. And now you can access these important discussions in the format that you prefer. Watch, read, listen. You can watch our content on our website, familyfirst.nz. Simply click on the Watch tab and you'll see all our various programs that you can view. You can also watch these across our social media channels: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, TikTok, Threads and Blue Sky. Everywhere. If you'd prefer to listen while you go about your daily activities or are travelling in a vehicle, then click on the Listen tab and the latest content is there for you to listen to. You can also find us on Spotify under Family First NZ. And if you prefer to read our commentary, then click on the Read tab. We're increasing the frequency of our written commentary, focusing on the latest research and analysing the current news events which are relevant to families and society. We provide the insight and context which you won't get from the mainstream media. We're also now adding the full scripts of Family Matters and McBlog under the video link in our website, and also written summaries on our live stream shows so that you can read and digest the material at your own pace. Consume our conservative conversations in the way that best suits you. Watch, read, listen. Go to familyfirst.nz and join the conversation.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I hope you are all well and welcome to Solid Ground. Lovely to have you all along. I see the comments coming through already. To new viewers, welcome to this show. We're up to about the 118th, that's 118th episode, which in itself is, I think, quite incredible. We haven't been cancelled, as Bob likes to joke. Look, Solid Ground is where we talk the political, cultural, social, ethical, whatever really catches my eye over the last 24 or so hours, the news, happenings in New Zealand and around the world. And we apply an unapologetically conservative and actually Christian framework around it. But one of the great things about Solid Ground is that it's live. I'm coming to you live from Auckland here in New Zealand on a beautiful morning, I have to say. I can't easily spin my camera around, but it is gorgeous, and I can see actually from the comments coming through that someone's telling me my audio's low, so I'm going to try and fix that. So let me know if it's getting any better at the moment, guys. And also that I can take your comments, thoughts and feedback, which I think is fantastic. So I'm tweaking the audio as we speak, so if it's still low, let me know. Otherwise, let me know if it's going better. I must admit, I have a terrible habit. I have a sound deck next to me. I have a bad habit of fiddling with it, and I was on different shows at different times, so that could be one of the reasons. Also have a new lighting rig, I have to say, so I feel more lit up than I've normally been. I don't mean that I'm out there with with a cigarette, but yes, we've got a whole new lighting rig. We're going from strength to strength here, and I know I've got to actually get out there and show you more, because as you may or may not know, for some of you, this is where I'm broadcasting from. It's actually a treehouse here in Auckland. It's all souped up. It's got lights everywhere now. It's got the Starlink to allow me to broadcast. And it feels like every week I'm bringing something in. But anyway, thank you for the feedback coming in on all of that, guys. So this is where I'm coming to you from. I'm looking out at the moment to, as I say, a beautiful, beautiful sunrise. And thanks again for the feedback, guys. I can see what I've done. I can see what I've done wrong. So again, good morning. I'm just going to quickly go through some comments. And as always, thank you for saying good morning, how you're going. If there's any political issues or what, maybe that's the question. What do you think is the number one political issue this week? I'm going to touch on one of them, I think, around Chris Hipkins. But what do you think is the big issues? Harrison's asking, because I caught up with him on Sunday, feeling much better. Those of you who would have heard me on last Thursday, knew I was a bit under the weather. I wasn't sick with a cold, but just wasn't 100% and was losing my voice, which was not a good start. Edmund, good morning to you. Rosie, always lovely to have you there in Taupo. Mike, good morning. We got Jackie, lovely to have you along. Looks like Murray there, is it? Good morning. And Lynette. We can't do a show without Lynette. Jarena, always lovely to have you along. And Murray, you're telling me you're from Ashburton. A cracking day, Bernice tells me, in Tauranga. It is, look, I have to say, such a special place, Tauranga. As some of you may know, Rachel and I have a place in Mount Maunganui. And the tragedies of recent weeks aside, it really is just, as Bernice knows, it's just such a gorgeous, gorgeous place. Thank you to Optimum Performance for having earlier told me my sound was crappy. My word, not theirs. Which is good. And again, thank you to everyone. I better stop there. I'll spend all morning saying hello. But as I say, if you have, well, obviously any questions, but as I say, my question to you, what do you think is the major news story this week? Certainly in New Zealand. And good morning to Robin. I can see just come through there from Hamilton. One is, of course, the revelations around Chris Hipkins, his now ex-wife of 2 years, as in they were married for 2 years, put out quite a blistering social media post yesterday slamming his behaviour around children. Bob and I will talk more about that on Political Playback on Thursday. But mostly, and I'll make a brief comment now, and I suspect Bob and I will mostly actually focus on how the media is reporting it. Many of you may know divorces are messy. There's lots of hurt feelings, lots of damage done often to kids. It's scurrilous. The word is prurient. There we go for Harrison and others. Prurient. There's always a prurient interest in these sorts of things, and that's understandable. But what is striking me is how the media is treating the issue. And look, I'm not going to put up the social media post. It's all over X and elsewhere. His ex-wife Jade has just really unloaded on him, and if she's correct, pretty terrible to say the least. But why I'm commenting is that we'll talk about it more on Political Playback on Thursday, because it's probably the political discussion of the week. But notice how mainstream media is treating the issue, which is very much with kid gloves, just lightly touching it. And the likes of Stuff is saying, well, it's all unsubstantiated, so we don't really want to say much more. The double standard and hypocrisy, of course, is that the mainstream media here in New Zealand was more than happy earlier in the week to barrel into Christopher Luxon, the Prime Minister, around the Samoan title, Matai, I believe is the title, and whether or not he had asked for it, it was gifted to him. Long and short, the media was happy to report often, frequently, and with vigour, despite the fact that was unsubstantiated. So what you're seeing is the classic double standard. If you cast your mind back, for some of us who are older, you'll remember the Don Brash situation. He had an affair at the time. Diane Foreman was her name, and he was married. All hell broke loose, to put it really quite simply. The media barreled in, article after article. If I recall correctly, the woman involved never said anything, or the women involved never said anything. But there was day after day of interrogation from media. So it seems to me that there's one, if you will, news approach for the centre-right, which is full exposure, happy to work on unsubstantiated claims, barrel on these prurient issues. When it comes to the left, the mainstream media run protection. They put up the walls and they do all they can to protect the left wing. In this case, Chris Hipkins. But I want to underline one point, which is actually I don't want to see too much scurrilous reporting around the personal lives of MPs. There's a degree where it is important. We need to know the moral character. But I would suggest to you too, and I'm not trying to hide anything myself, I better be clear. Someone's going, wait a minute. But if it turns into constant deep reflecting on the decisions that MPs are making in their personal life and in their family life, I think things will just get completely ugly. Not for all MPs, there's many, many good ones who don't have issues like this. But I think it just gets very ugly, and it's not where we need to have the focus. Now, I probably haven't articulated that perfectly. There's a lot more nuance and subtlety to add into it, because I think we do need to hold MPs to account. I think we do need to know, as I said earlier, their moral character. But if all we're going to be doing is opening, if you will, the closets and finding skeletons, reflecting on every moral decision they make in their personal lives, we've got a big mess coming, because it's not just Chris Hipkins, as we know, goes across the political parties. So I just think we've got to be careful not to go into this too deeply. But my primary reflection is how the media is treating this. And it is, as usual, a glaring double standard. As we say, they have very happily looked at an array of unsubstantiated claims. Before, as I say, the Samoan chief title around Chris Luxon. You could even go as far to say speculation around his leadership. But now that Chris Hipkins' ex-wife is firing salvos and making pretty damning accusations around his character, the media are saying very little. And we're also noticing, particularly on social media at the moment, the attacks on her. The attempt to gaslight her, effectively undermine her, which is ironic from the same people who would have been out shouting for the Me Too movement a little while ago, that all women just need to be believed. The left, of course, don't believe that. And again, I'm not going to go too deep into the Me Too movement, but have you noticed those who throw about these big slogans, so like the Me Too movement, which is about believe all women, well, they don't actually believe that. Those who said the slogans are now barreling in to attack Jade, which is the name of Chris Hipkins' ex-wife. They didn't believe the Israeli women abused and raped on October 7th. It only seems to be selective. It's the same with, what is it, love is love, you hear from the various LGBTQ, God, the huge list of alphabet. Love is love, except when it comes to people they don't agree with, and then they'll scream and abuse you. So anyway, I'm going down rabbit holes, as always. I'll leave it there. Look, a few things I thought of interesting note. Typical me, I've taken 10 minutes prattling on that, and I said I wouldn't. As I say, join us for political playback. That's going to be significant. Now, speaking actually, I'm going to play you a video. Hopefully the sound is okay, but you don't have to listen. It's more reading, and I just think it is hilarious. So this is from the United Nations, one of its agencies, around the International Day for Women. And this is one of the videos they put out, and there are so many things wrong with this, funny, ironic, hypocritical, that I don't know where to start. So I'll play it, and then I will comment. So here we go. I'll play it again and pause it as I comment, but I hope you've begun to pick up for me just the absolute absurdity of that video. the absurdity of what they're reflecting on this International Day for Women, and the absurdity of the United Nations. It is, to be honest with you guys, I think, beyond a joke. So I'll play it in pause. I mean, again, not because you haven't seen what's in it, but just to draw your attention to a few parts. I just think it is absolutely bonkers. And I see food dogs trucking. God, I still laugh at that name, saying they're all nuts, which is actually a very good point. So here it is again, if I can get it to work. But I just think it is just the funniest thing. Sorry, I'm using multiple screens here, which is slowing me down a little bit. So here is the UN saying to us, what does it mean to be a woman? Which, kudos to them. That's a useful question. Good. That is a good start. I am a woman. So what does it mean to be a woman? Well, it's a statement, but I am a woman and trans. So to be a woman, according to the United Nations, is a biological reality, if that's what they mean by I am a woman, and I am trans. In other words, a woman is also men, which of course is very confusing to just about everyone except the United Nations. So really, International Women's Day, according to the United Nations, really is the international day for everybody who wants to be, which is weird in itself. And there's the affirmation of the trans ideology. Simple existence means I am. I mean, just Descartes, I think, therefore I am, cogito ergo sum, being terribly torn apart there. So again, to be a woman is just because you exist. So whether you're a man, a woman, you think you're a dolphin, you can all be a woman and celebrated by the UN. I mean, it's just barking mad, but it gets worse. This section is not so much around trans ideology, but watch how they're representing the LGBTIQ plus women, how they've chosen to represent. Fascinating choice that they've taken effectively an Islamic approach here. Now, they may try to argue that wearing headscarves and hijabs and so forth is not just Islamic. But it's clearly what they're doing. It's a classic inversion, misrepresentation. There's not to say there isn't LGBTQ plus people in Islamic communities at all. In fact, there'll be lots, and they're persecuted, as we know, in the likes of Iran and Afghanistan and elsewhere. They're killed, which is absolutely appalling. But this is the UN misappropriating that culture. This is the UN misrepresenting the reality of the situation, trying to project a normality there which does not exist. It's again just another absurdity, and in this case misrepresenting Islamic culture, but trying to make the Western liberals, and I would go as far to say the white Western liberals, feel that they're just so open and tolerant, but misrepresenting the situation totally. And again, here you go, an Islamic woman with the ever-growing pride flag. I want to stress, of course there are people who are Muslim and gay. That's not the point. The UN, in advertising it this way, is taking what's a minority of a minority and trying to make a big deal out of it. You will note, of course, too, that the United Nations, particularly around women's affairs, have said absolutely nothing about the situation of Iranian women at the moment under the Islamic regime. So more than happy to run these little videos and put up their little cartoons for their International Women's Day for women that they don't even know how to define, but are not prepared to say anything for the suffering of women in the likes of the Islamic Republic. Watch the next image, which I would just suggest to you is a classic trans problem, which is actually overemphasizing what are supposedly feminine qualities to make someone a woman. I think personally it's insulting. I'll leave that to the women on the show to decide. But look how they very quickly represent the trans man, biological man, pretending to be a woman. And as it rounds out, and I'll finish here because it's, it's just so absurd. What does it mean to be a woman? Well, the answer, of course, is a adult human female, but the UN is a confused bunch of ideologues, and instead, no one, according to the UN, gets to decide what a woman is. In other words, women is nothing. Women don't exist according to the UN. It is an absurdity, guys, and you know it. I mean, in some ways, I don't need to be belaboring the point, but this is just the absolute absurdity of the United Nations. And it's one of the reasons Bob and I, Family First, barrel in to them, because these are the people making a whole array of decisions. Not just, obviously, in the trans rights space, but right across a whole lot of family policy. The United Nations cannot even define what a woman is. If you are one of these people who says a woman is just what you decide it to be, then women is no longer a defined category. It's a nothing. It's an absolute nothing. In the same way it would be for men. If men doesn't mean anything, if it means just what you want it to be, that's a nonsense. It's like saying the weather is just what you want it to be. The reality versus what you believe. It's just so nuts, guys, and I just don't fully understand it. And look, I've sat down and interviewed everyone from Helen Joyce to Peter Boghossian, Sal Grover, Carolee Smith, some of the people right at the front line of all this gender stuff. And I always ask them, what is it that drives this absurdity? And it's no reflection on their knowledge, but none of us can really or fully understand it. Beyond a sort of a faux empathy that some people have, particularly young women, to say we just have to be accepting. But you can't accept that which is false or blatantly false. It's just absolute craziness. And Lisa's nailed it here. If no one gets to decide for us, it becomes meaningless. Look, completely right. It's unfathomably stupid. But yeah, that's why I wanted to show you the video. I just thought it was just so stupid. Because, of course, it opens with, what does it mean to be a woman? What does it mean to be a woman? Well, according to the UN, no one gets to decide. So therefore, it's a meaningless question. Absolutely stupid. Anyway, I'm going to stop there before I, lose my rag somewhat. Somewhat related, and you'll go switching from woman to this guy, and I'm not going to spend too much time. Jürgen Habermas. And you go, why on earth am I putting him up? I actually studied his philosophy. If you don't know, actually, that's my postgraduate work. Not in Habermas, but read a lot of philosophers. German fellow. Why I'm putting this up here is actually, he is one of the philosophers behind what they know as the Frankfurt School. And the Frankfurt School is what's actually influenced a lot of the political thinking of today. It's basically brought in cultural Marxism. So while we acknowledge his death, and actually I found some of his writings really quite profound, I thought I'd just, if you will, put a face, because he's only one of many philosophers from that Frankfurt School, who basically looked at Western society, Judeo-Christian Western society and capitalism, and said, look, it's a broken system, we don't like it. So they definitely leaned much more strongly to the left. And then they developed what we know today as critical theory, which really, guys, to break it down very simply, critical theory, and the hint's in the name, is critical of our society. And now, at one level, that's a good thing. We should always be reviewing our society. But critical theory tries to deconstruct, rip down, and destroy Western society. As you've noted, the questions posited or put to Western societies are never put to the others. So, I'm trying to think of a quick example. Slavery comes to mind. Those from the Frankfurt School would focus very heavily on slavery in the West, but they never focus on the slavery in Arabia and Africa and elsewhere, for example. They look at the treatment of women in Western societies like New Zealand, Australia and England, but they never look at the treatment of the women in Iran, for example. So this is the irony, the paradox, the hypocrisy of critical theory. But sadly, guys, it is well entrenched in the likes of New Zealand, and you see it particularly from progressives, always trying to rip society down. And it actually starts with the likes of Habermas here. So look, If you're into philosophy, he's interesting to read, but a lot of his ideas, I think, are barking mad. Barking mad. Jumping to New Zealand, and I can see lots of comments coming through. I'll try to get to those before the end. Again, Bob and I will talk about this on Thursday more because it's only just come out yesterday. The government's looking to effectively, I would say, liberalise the alcohol laws in New Zealand more. There's already a push in the Parliament by a members' bill, so it's not a government bill, it's by individual MPs from Labour and ACT to liberalise alcohol laws in New Zealand around Easter Sunday, Good Friday, Christmas Day and Anzac Day to basically allow you to drink on those days, to go into bars and restaurants and booze up. And so there's that. The government, literally in the last 24 hours, has come out and said, actually, we're going to make it even easier to access alcohol. So I don't know what the booze obsession is, but it's around. So you'll see more of that from Family First. Jumping back to overseas, I was talking about Iranian women earlier. You may have followed the news late last week that there's been a women's soccer tournament in Australia, and the Iranian women's team were in effect trapped because they'd left Iran before the conflict started, and now it is. And a number of them, I think 7, I might have that wrong, applied for asylum. And after a bit of pressure were granted, and this is them with, I think it's Tony Burke, he's like the Minister of Immigration or the like in Australia. There are 5 of them. Fascinating first insight is the hijabs have come off, which I think is absolutely marvellous. It's their choice, of course, but it's a repressive item of clothing in Islamic culture, and certainly in Iran. So I thought it was marvellous that not only at this point were they safe, but obviously removing the items of repression. Sadly, about 3 of them so far are beginning to withdraw their asylum bids. And I just wanted to draw your attention to that because I think it's tragic for these women, but it also reflects on why the Islamic regime in Iran is so despotic. Why they're removing their request for asylum is because of the threats to their families back home. In fact, I suspect many of their family will not survive. The regime will end up killing them. But the regime there will have put enormous pressure onto their families. And, having worked with asylum seekers and defectors, not from Iran, I better say, but from the likes of China and Hong Kong in the past, it is one of the great tensions of a defector or someone seeking asylum is leaving their family behind. So clearly the regime has threatened their families, and some of the women have chosen to, head back to Iran via Malaysia. They're under pressure here too from Iranian officials. But I think the sad reality is not only the threats to their family, but I would say, and it's awful to even contemplate it, but I think a number of these women who go back won't survive. They will be killed because that's what happens with the Islamic regime. So very tragic, very sad. And also speaking of sad, I know I'm overseas and I'll turn to some of the comments. This is the new Archbishop of Canterbury, Sarah Mullally. I probably said that wrong. Why I'm putting this up, you're going, why is he talking about a walk from London to Canterbury? Personally, I couldn't care less. I think she's bordering on a joke as the Archbishop for a whole number of reasons. But look, it's a different religious or faith tradition to my own. But why I put this up here is because at the same time as she's doing this walk from London to Canterbury, there's going to be a vote in the House of Lords in the UK to extend abortion up till birth. So pretty significant, you would say. And the Archbishop of Canterbury, along with other Anglican bishops, sit in the House of Lords. That's how the House of Lords work. You have peers, so you've got your lords and ladies and your barons and so forth, but you also have bishops. The bishops sit in the House of Lords. And so this new Archbishop, Sarah, has decided she's not going to go to the House of Lords and vote on an abortion up to birth bill. No, she's deciding she's going to do a pilgrimage from London to Canterbury. Now, Canterbury's not all that far from London. I think it's like a day and a half's walk. But she can't be bothered to jump into an Uber and go back down to the Houses of Parliament there in London and vote against an abortion bill allowing children to be killed up to birth, unborn children born up till birth. I have no idea why such people parade themselves to be clerics or priests. For me, and I get quite angry about this, it just seems to be dress-ups. They seem to love the little vestments and the little clerical collars and playing dress-ups and doing little pilgrimage walks like this, but they don't actually stand up for basic Christian values, such as one of the first commandments. Of course, the first commandment is to love the Lord your God, but the other is not. Well, there's 10 of them. Is not to kill. Do not kill. It's pretty explicit. But here we are. The Archbishop of Canterbury cannot be bothered to turn up to the Houses of Parliament to vote against an extreme abortion bill. So I just think it's pathetic, beyond measure. But as I say, I find her a bit of a joke overall. But let me not get into a damaging ecumenical discussion. So very, very sad. I've seen piles and piles of comments coming through. So I'm going to see if I can get to some of them here. I think a lot of them are around the UN. Actually, I think I'm looking at them now. There are so many, I am going to lose track. So I apologize, but I can see lots of comments. Robin actually nails it. The world is ugly. This is a good, and it's one of the latest comments, so it's easy for me to see. I think it is, but I'll just finish here, guys, because we don't lose hope. That's one of the great blessings. If you're Christian, of the Christian faith, as we believe that Christ won the victory on the cross 2,000 years ago. So we're just called to participate as best we can. And I don't know about yourselves, just to keep plodding away. Often say to people, the fight's as important as the outcome. In other words, it doesn't matter whether we're losing the political battles or we're facing the madness of the United Nations. We just keep speaking the truth and critiquing what is happening in the world. Speaking of that, last points, as you know, always advertising. Jump onto RCR if you want to hear me interviewing Tanya Unkovic around the second COVID inquiry. Tanya is amazing. She was also on Straight Talk with us last night, so that was really good. Obviously, Bob and I continue to do these shows every morning. I mentioned we've got political playback coming up on Thursday, so join us for that. There'll be a new Family Matters out this week, but if you're interested in whakapapa, genealogy, identity, had a fascinating discussion with Garrick Parr. He's part of something called familysearch.org, so it's a genealogy website, free and open. Really, absolutely fascinating. Check that out. And we had, if you haven't, you've got to check out our new show called Counterculture. The first one dropped last week, led by our new colleague here at Family First, Samuel Bilton. In fact, I'm doing a podcast with Samuel today, so you'll get to learn a little bit more about who he is and what he's doing. But he's hosting effectively Counterculture for younger and cooler people with these young ones. So it's absolutely fantastic. Check that out. And always, there's our McBlogs, our Substack. So mine's, substack.com. Go and look up my name or Bob's, and you'll find stuff there. So no shortage, guys. As always, lovely to have you on the show. Thank you for all the comments. I said there are so many. I've been overwhelmed. I can't see them all, but I can see stuff on abortion. I can see on the alcohol laws. Lots around the UN. It's nuts. The Chris Hipkins situation. Crazy times, guys. But we live in hope. It's lovely to have you along. See you on Thursday morning. Just have a wonderful Tuesday out there, because looking out the window, it looks fantastic.